Welcome to our show. This is going to be terrible. We are three friends hanging out, talking about whatever seems interesting at the time. Don't say we didn't warn you. We've met before. Hi, my name is Robert.
And I am James.
And I'm Nathan. And I just got to ask, how come the word camouflage isn't spelled like?
Like what? Like this terrible dad joke where you can't read the word because it's camouflaged?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, only dads can make dad's joke, Nathan.
Hey, I'm a faux pas. Thank you very much.
He's got
See, that's
kitties.
a good one. That's a good one. Stick with the cat jokes, Nathan. So how have you all been over the last week, since we're technically, for our viewers, recording this a week earlier than we normally would? So we've seen each other not too far long ago.
Not too far long ago, yeah. That's a great phrase.
Not long enough, if you ask me. Which I guess technically you did.
I did. I guess everybody's cool. It hasn't been long enough for anything interesting to happen.
Nothing ever interesting happens here.
No, well, we all lead pretty boring lives.
I mean, I did get a scope this past week, but I'm sure you guys don't want to hear about that.
I don't think anybody wants to hear about that. So let's move on to our news segment now. We're going to share some news things that came up that we find interesting, and we'll, kind of just talk about how we feel or think about those things. I will go first. If you watched our previous episode, if you haven't, we'll wait. Nathan, you can do the Jeopardy music this time.
Do.
All right, that's enough. We don't want to get it caught by YouTube or podcast, auto censor things, because we're not paying that.
That is true.
Bomb.
And now we're shut down. No, but if you watched our last episode, we did talk a little bit about Halo Infinite and some news that co-op was not going to be available at launch. Neither was Forge Mode. But if you want to know what that's all about, go watch our previous episode. But I wanted to share that since that episode aired, the official release date for Halo Infinite has finally dropped. James did comment that we've kind of just been left wondering if and when this game would ever drop. And as luck would have it, he should have asked earlier, because right afterwards it dropped. There was originally a leak in the Microsoft store that showed the launch date as December 8th. And then later on that day, during Gamescom, Microsoft confirmed that the release date is indeed December 8th of 2021, and that there will be a themed console controller and an Elite controller launched with this game as well. I'm glad to finally have a release date. I'm still bummed that we're not going to have co-op at the launch, but we talked about last week. Whatever, it is what it is. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at the Elite controller or the console. They both look actually quite nice. The only disappointing thing was that I went to go pre-order it, and all the pre-orders are sold out already.
Yep.
I do not have a Series X, and when I saw that they had a themed console, I was like, cool. I'm a longtime Halo fan, and it's about time I pick up a Series X. This is a great way to kill two birds with one stone, or one grunt with one, or two grunts with one plasma grenade. Anyway, cool. We have a release date. Cool. We have a new console. What do you guys think?
Yeah, as soon as it's announced, you try to get the pre-order and like click. Oh, nope, we're all sold out. But you can find plenty of scalpers on eBay, so have fun with that, or not. Don't stoop to that level. Don't let them win.
Oh.
But yeah, I guess December 8th will be cutting it in, not quite under the wire, but December is close enough to the new year. I think it's going to give some game outlets issues as far as like Game of the Year awards. Usually some of them have a cutoff that's pretty close to that point, because if you're trying to talk about the games of the year, technically it's releasing in 2021, but it's not going to give people a lot of time to review it, let alone the fact that with half of the game being just multiplayer, that's not going to give people any time to like, all right, how they're just going to be able to base it on what ships at launch, and maybe, I guess, a day one or day zero patch. Other than that, they're not going to know like, is this multiplayer going to be sustainable? Is it going to keep it up or not? I don't
Maybe
know.
Microsoft
I get the
wanting
feeling
to
it might make
keep out.
some game of the year lists for next year, because I know some outlets do push December titles into the next year just because it's easier. But it's nice that we finally have a day. So yay, it's already available if you have Game Pass to preload. It's just a tiny little file that tells them to actually download the bigger file when it's available.
Yes. Bummer that I won't be getting the console most likely, but at least I won't have to buy the game since I have Game Pass.
I mean, you'll still theoretically between now and then, if you want to get the regular Series X, you can probably try and scope that out. I was lucky enough to be able to find one at some point, so they're out there.
Yeah, but I mean, this would have worked out well because I was starting to save up to buy the Series X in time to pick it up around Christmas as like a Merry Christmas to myself gift. And then this kind of dropping and releasing in December was like great. Like I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have the money around then so I can pick up this console, because the pre-order, I don't think they're gonna charge until it ships. So I had plenty of time to get that money ready. But it, thanks to all the scalpers out there, I probably won't be seeing this console in my home anytime soon. At least not the Halo themed one.
All I'm hearing is you need to go ahead and develop your own scalping program that's better than theirs. You have the technology. Build it.
Just not the time. So, Nathan, unless you have any thoughts, we can move on to our next topic. James, take us into the MCU.
Yeah, I sort of feel a little bad since my last news last time was about a trailer, but here we go with another trailer that came out. Also for a December release, coincidentally enough, like the Halo thing. But Sony finally gave us our first actual teaser trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home. A lot of people had been speculating that maybe they were going to delay it again because we had not had any kind of like real trailer. All we had was tiny little bits and pieces about finally a title. But here we are. We're recording this now in August. Episode's releasing in September. That's only like 3.5 months away from the release date, and we finally got a trailer, which is good. And it was a very good trailer. It seems like speculation is it's going to be a live action version of a Spider-Verse type thing. There's rumors that we might get some previous Spider-Man actors in there. The trailer definitely confirmed we're getting previous actors that played Spider-Man villains. Very prominently displayed in the trailer, we had Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man 2. Mm-hmm. And there's some Green Goblin pumpkin bombs and what sounds like William Dafoe's Goblin laugh. And there's been rumors of other Spider-Man villains. I think we only get maybe like brief, like quick flashes of them in this teaser, but it was a pretty good trailer. So anticipation was already pretty big for this movie. It's December, so I don't know if I'm gonna go see it in the theater at that point, because who knows what COVID numbers are gonna look like. But I would like to. I don't know. Everybody else?
I saw this trailer. I thought it was fantastic. The whole thing was cut very well.
This is Spider-Man, so it has to be either amazing or spectacular. Generally those. Fantastic is more related to the Fantastic Four, also a Marvel property, but not Spider-Man.
Okay. Well, it was both amazing.
Except for when Spider-Man tried to get into the Fantastic Four and they were like, ha, 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 no.
It was amazing.
Until in the 90s when he actually did pop in there for a little bit as like a substitute new Fantastic Four team with, I believe it was like a Gray Hulk and a Wolverine and a Ghost Rider.
Why are you doing this to us?
You're the one that said fantastic.
It was amazing. Pause. And spectacular. Pause. I enjoyed it very much. He's not interrupting me. I think I'm going to keep going now. I thought it was cut very well. I enjoyed it very much. It got me super hyped up and excited. The pumpkin bombs was a really neat, like kind of like they didn't reel too much. And then I did not expect them to actually show anyone's face. the rumors have been going around for a while that all of these different people from the Raimi Spider-Verse, and who did the ones with Andrew Garfield, we'll just call it the Garfield Spider-Verse, were coming in this one. And the fact that they actually showed Alfred Molina's face, and then he also speaks, just gave me like chills. Like, he is one of my favorite villains. I think the Raimi verse was a very good set of movies. They weren't all fantastic. They weren't all spectacular, but they were very good. And Doc Ock is one of my favorite Spider-Man characters. I like how he was portrayed in Spider-Man 2, so I am excited to see his character come back. Yeah, James is right. There are glimpses of other characters that were also rumored to come, like Electro. There's some lightning in the air and whatever. And then in that same scenes with lightning, there seems to be a ton of what looks like to be sand. So maybe there'll be a Sandman. And then there's a bit of a jump scare in one scene that looks like it could be Lizard. Maybe not. Honestly, it could have just been Doc Ock and Green Goblin, and I think that would have been great. Both of those villains were very good in the Raimi verse, and I'm happy to see Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe come back. So I'm hyped.
As if I needed a reason to go back and rewatch the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. Sure, why not? I'll even throw in the Amazing duology, because Amazing 1 wasn't bad. 2, not so much.
So what do you think,
Nathan?
Trailer's good. It definitely, like you said, it got me hyped, and like it got me asking so many questions, mostly about Doctor Strange, and like, what the heck, dude? Come on. I thought you were better than this. So that's what I'm definitely most excited about. It's not so much like the possibility of Sinister Six being in this movie, but just trying to see, like, we all thought Doctor Strange was going to be setting Wanda straight with this, and then Loki from the series, and it seems like he's just kind of adding to the pile and just making it worse and worse. And so that's what I'm mostly looking forward to. Mostly,
I mean, obviously, when the Wong's away, the Strange will play.
I'm with Nathan there, though. Strange has some very strange motivations and behaviors in this trailer. It could just be, these are the way trailers happen with things like these. They're cut in different order. I mean, Marvel, if you remember when the Endgame trailers and stuff, is not beyond CGing in and out characters in various shots, and changing different shots. Like, I remember one, Thor has 2 eyes. When they do Ragnarok, in the trailer, he has 2 eyes when they're glowing. And then when the movie came out, it turned out he actually lost 1 eye. The Hulk in the Hulkbuster armor was photoshopped, or not photoshopped, but like kind of removed from one of the scenes where they're running towards the camera in, I think it's Infinity War. Mm-hmm. So, they're not beyond making even visual changes that will be different when the movie actually releases. So, yeah. But Strange is definitely acting very strange in this trailer. So I am very intrigued to see what's up with him in this movie. Cool. So we'll look forward to our episode reviewing every single Spider-Man movie, possibly around that time. We'll see. But Nathan,
I mean, it's not a bad idea for a main topic. Yeah. We can either crunch all 5 into one, or split it up into Raimi versus Amazing, or however it works.
Yeah, we can do that. Let us know in the comments if you want us to do just a one big powwow Spider-Man review of all the movies that have been out to date, including all 3 Spider-Verses, or if you'd like to see us kind of divvy it up and do one on Raimi, one on Amazing, and one on the current MCU Spider-Man movies. And
if you're from New Zealand, we're still waiting on your comments to force Nathan to watch the Star Wars sequel trilogy.
I was gonna
operators are standing by.
I was gonna point out that reviewing all the Spider-Man films would be much better than the sequel trilogy, but I was like, maybe I don't want to reopen that wound. Maybe I don't want to remind them about that. But doesn't matter now.
Comment below also, and we'll just open it up to all countries. Why are we doing this to just New Zealand? Why? Because they're the best? No, let's just open it up to all countries. Let's see what you want to do. Fans, comment below. Do you want us to do review of Spider-Man before Spider-Man airs? Or do you want us to do a review of Star Wars, the sequel trilogy, before Book of Boba Fett hairs.
And here's when you insert the meme of the little girl going, "Why not both?"
Or both. We'll take it. Nathan, what kind of news do you have to share with us other than that you're about to go and I don't know, disappear through the month of December?
Heard about
it's because he's secretly Santa Claus. I mean, just look at that flowing mane there.
Right, but I mean, Santa Claus's hair is white, and this is clearly not white. So your theory kind of falls.
You're waiting to Tim Allen it up, and not in the current Tim Allen way. I'm talking the 90s.
Yeah, Scott Calvin. Yeah, I got the reference. Anyway, so my news segment is about the quote unquote PS5 downgrade that is being reported right now. That there's a like new subversion of the hardware for the PS5 that's getting shipped out. There's a video of a guy doing it. I forget his name off the top of my head. I think Austin Evans, sorry. And he realizes that the new PlayStation 5 is like a half-pound lighter, so he takes it apart, compares it to the old one to see what exactly is different about it. Good news, the stand has a better screw that makes it more easily to remove the stand and put it back on. You don't have to pull out a screwdriver all the time to take care of that, which is good news, but also why you taking the stand on and off. You do either put it on or you leave it off, like, regardless. But what it comes down to is apparently the heatsink in the newer models is like almost 50% smaller. And then he took a thermometer to the back of it, ran both of them just with a generic game playing. And the newer one has a higher temperature coming out with the exhaust air. And I'm kind of like, that's a good thing. The heatsink is performing well and the console is removing more air out. I could be wrong. I don't know anything about this stuff. I'm not into tech like our resident Robert is. So I was really
hoping to be shaking his head. He's disagreeing. Robert, enter the ring.
Pretty much. Yeah, I was just getting ready to say. So I wanted to talk to Robert about this to hear how he feels about, is it better to have hot air blown out of a console compared to it not as hot air blowing out?
Yeah. So, I can kind of get where Nathan's logic might be coming from, but at the same time, if you think about it this way, if hot air is coming out of the console, that hot air is being generated by something hot to generate heat inside the console. Hot air, more hot air or hotter air coming out of the console doesn't necessarily mean a good thing, because you're thinking about it in the terms of maybe volume, right? You may be thinking, well, more hot air is coming out than before. It's not the volume that has changed, but the temperature, which means the internal temperature of the device is now running hotter.
Gotcha.
And so like anything mechanical or electronic, heat is bad and can impact performance. And so, consoles like the Xbox Series X and the PS5 are not really all that different than like your PC or your laptop, right? They're just running their hand-picked hardware, running in finely tuned software to optimize the hardware that's in it. And so it's just another PC basically. And so most people know the hotter your PC is, the poorer it will perform. And so the question then becomes, when they made the heatsink smaller, therefore increasing the heat that the processor now must maintain, because it's the heatsink, its job is to pull heat away from the processor to keep it cool. Will that impact performance of this console? Will you see that impact reflected in games, in dropped frames, longer loading time, more glitches, things of that nature? And so those are all things that are going to basically remain to be seen. I would hope that Sony, being a multi-billion-dollar corporation, would not intentionally shoot its console in the foot, reduce the size of the heatsink if it were going to greatly impact performance enough that people would start to notice, especially because you want people to continue to buy more of your console. So I do wonder, it is weird that they would make this change. It does feel like it's obviously to offset manufacturing costs. Smaller heatsink means less materials, which means less spending, right? But they didn't change the price of the console. So they're increasing their bottom line on the sales of this console. And so it would be sad for them to make that decision, knowing that it may or does impact performance. I'm going to basically hope that they did their research and determined it did not make a difference and they could pocket the money at the same time, which is okay. But it's too early right now.
Right.
We got to wait for more people to look at it. But I think at the end of the day, this is one of those things where the casual player isn't going to care. If the console works and most people are playing this on a HD television in their house that won't have more than 120 hertz, which means anything greater than 120 frames isn't going to make a huge difference that they can actually like perceive and appreciate. And it only goes up to 60 frames anyway right now. So it's not a difference you can appreciate at the moment with the current technology. So I don't know that people are going to even really notice that there's a huge difference. It's only going to be those very niche players that are intentionally pushing the console to its limits, using stupid, expensive monitors and everything to notice the drops in frames, that will see it. And it's just not going to impact Sony's sales, because the bulk of the people buying this console are everyday people like you and me who don't really notice or care all that much about those very tiny differences. As long as the average consumer doesn't notice, it's not going to hurt them at all, I don't think. The enthusiast crowd may care, but the average crowd won't.
Yeah, the leading theory is that Sony over-engineered the launch console's heatsink, and that after they've got some performance specs back, they're able to more accurately, like you said, portray what the average user will be able to do and what kind of demand that entails. So then, like you said, they can make it cheaper for themselves. And that makes sense too, because like a lot of people I'm sure are like, oh, if they're making it cheaper, they should sell it for cheaper. But it's like they were losing money selling consoles, so they kind of got to make it up somehow, which a lot of times they make it up with the video games that they produce. And Sony makes pretty darn good video games, let's be real. And I'm sure the cost difference isn't significant enough to actually rebrand the PlayStation 5 as like the PS5S or whatever, and start that. It hasn't even been a year yet, I think, if I remember correctly. So yeah.
And it's one of those things where you just you have to also know that these things will happen eventually anyway. Look at like the Xbox S versus the original Xbox. They're functionally the same, but the S is much smaller, but they do the exact same things. One is not more performative than the other. So over time, these manufacturers learn of better, cheaper ways to make their console. And hopefully you hope that one day that turns into cost savings for the consumer, but it's still too early. It hasn't even been out a year yet. So I think Sony's just probably taking advantage of the fact that supply constraints are low, or supply constraints are high, meaning that it's difficult for them to manufacture consoles. And so this gave them a unique opportunity mid-production to change a couple of things that they wish they would have figured out before they launched. And so we just hope it doesn't actually impact gameplay. And as long as it doesn't, it won't matter. So
I know myself personally, I don't have a horse in this race. I don't intend to get a PlayStation 5 anytime at all, or if, ever. But it sounds like it's a great win to all those people that are using PlayStation 5s to power their hot air balloons. To me, all I'm hearing is, hey, this new one puts out more hot air. Great. They can use less PS5s to power their hot air balloons. That's a win-win in their book.
That's a stretch. Please don't pull a muscle.
Well, I mean, generally, you want the hot air to expand and stretch the balloon. That way, it can properly be used.
We know how hot air balloons work. The problem is that your joke doesn't.
Doesn't know how hot air balloons, or doesn't work?
Doesn't work.
Oh, well, your joke didn't work.
Wow. Got him. All right. Well,
so enough of all this hot air. Let's actually get on to our main topic.
And that's a good segue. Thanks, James. Let's move on to our main topic then. We decided, or at least James suggested, and then we decided, with all the games that we have available to us on Game Pass, and now that all three of us have Game Pass, thank you, Nathan, for joining the club.
Nathan.
We've got this large library of games that we can play and suggest to one another, and then maybe every once in a while do a review of some games that are available on Game Pass. And so that's what we did. And so we each picked a game, and then we tasked each other to play that game over the last couple of weeks, and then we can come here and share our thoughts. So we'll go in this
and
order.
you're welcome, the two of you, for showing great restraint and not immediately putting up some sort of horror title.
Yes, thank you.
I'm not saying it's not coming in if we do this again in the future, but you're welcome for now.
Put it off as long as you can, please. So we will go in this order, but just to cover who picked what game, James, who will go first, picked Control. And then I picked Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and Nathan picked Overcooked 2. We'll each talk about why we chose the particular game and what we liked most about it, and then we'll let the others share their experience in the game as well. So James, take us off. You are in control.
Yes, I am going to take Control. Robert gets that because I think he made it all the way through the game. Nathan, I don't believe he did, but anybody else who wants to play through the game, you'll get it. You'll get there eventually.
At least
Control
Nathan
originally came out.
Point.
Control originally came out in 2019. It was developed by Remedy Entertainment, who I've been following for quite a while. Their first game that I played a lot of was they did Max Payne 1 and 2. I think I have vague memories of maybe going over to Robert's at one point and playing a bunch of Max Payne. For some reason, I have that in my head. I don't know if any of that's triggering a memory. He's looking up. He's looking.
It might not have been me, but another mutual friend. Like all three of us together, but another mutual friend.
Possibly. The point being, there's a chance you all might have played some Remedy games in the past. They've got the Max Payne games. They have Alan Wake, which I also enjoyed, which is sort of horror-esque, but you do have a lot of control in, like, shooting a bunch of monsters and stuff up. It's once you get going, it's not too bad. Their big, most recent game prior to Control had been Quantum Break, which they worked on with Microsoft, which it's not that it fell flat. I enjoyed it when I played it. It's also another shooter. All these games that they do have been pretty much shooters. Control had a gimmick of trying to meld video games with TV, which was something that Microsoft was trying to do at the launch of the Xbox One way back when. It didn't quite work out for them, hence them abandoning it, but the remnants of it there are in Quantum Break. Still worth it to go back and play it. It's also on Game Pass, but we are here to talk about Control. It is the first game that tries to loosely tie together a bunch of the previous Remedy games into one like cohesive MCU type universe, Marvel type universe. If anybody like me who had played the previous Remedy games, you will start to notice little teases and hints within Control about, hey, this is referencing Alan Wake stuff. This is referencing some Quantum Break stuff. Sort of referencing Max Payne, but not really, because that IP is actually still with Rockstar Games and 2K, so they just filed the serial numbers off it, and it's actually talking about another detective / FBI guy who is not Max Payne. The point being, Control, it's a third-person shooter. You're stuck in one building, but it is, what is it? Is it like multi-planar or something? It's just a giant building. It keeps moving and expanding. So basically, it's their excuse to say, like, hey, you have a lot of area in this place, even though you're just in one building. Like, you get a lot of areas that look like, no, this would be an exterior sort of place, a rock quarry and stuff like that. But no, you're all still in one area. And you technically only have one gun, but just like all of the building and stuff around you is shifting, your gun also shifts to be a pistol or like a shotgun or a whole bunch of other different effects, which are all kind of neat when you get down into the nitty gritty of the enhancements and stuff from the guns. But I had played it, I believe, last year. I didn't play it when it originally came out, but close enough. And I really enjoyed it. I think the one downfall for it is it's coming in the tail end of a generation. So anybody playing it on, like, say, a launch Xbox One, it has some frame rate issues from what I've heard. I originally played it on an Xbox One X, So a little bit beefier power, I didn't notice it as much. I still need to actually play it on the Series X that I have now, but I've just been waiting for it to go on sale because it's one of the games that is doing the stupid, you have to pay to upgrade to the new gen version. But I will get it at some point because I really enjoyed this game. Does anybody else wish to say how they thought of it?
I'll go ahead and start because I'm sure Robert has way more to say about it than I do. First off, I did enjoy the game. I liked the gameplay loop. I liked the shooting in it. I liked the whole RPG aspect of, updating your gun and yourself, and then how you can go out and find new powers. Like I had found the dodge ability. I forget exactly what it was called, just because like I was walking somewhere and I fell through a floor, and then it's like, oh, this is actually picking up a new ability. That's so cool. The story was interesting, but also extremely confusing. Like I remember starting off, and to me, it felt like you walk in this building because you're investigating something that happened in your personal life, and for some reason you're director of this company now or whatever. And I was just like, what? Huh? And I could not get past that. Like mentally, that was a roadblock. Every time somebody called me director, I was like, yeah, why am I the director? And so if I'd gotten further, I probably would have explained it. The biggest hurdle I had was it seemed like all of the objectives for the quest were always do this at this location. And that was it. That was all the directions I got. And then like once I figured out how to open the map, I could see kind of where I should go because it was highlighted yellow differently. But getting there was another trouble because like even though it's the one building with multiple floors, the floors themselves were three-dimensional, so you'd have overlapping hallways. So I had to try to figure out piecemeal where to go to get to where I needed to be. And then once I got there, do I press a button? Do I flip a switch? Do I kill a monster? What exactly do I need to do? What do you mean like open these control ways? Where's the control panel to open these control ways? And so after like 6 hours of playing the game, I swear I probably only got like 3 hours into it because half the time I was just trying to figure out where the heck to go. The farthest I got was I killed the clog monster, which was gross. Like I imagine that's what my gastroenterologist does every 2 years.
I was like, don't go there. Please don't go there. Please don't go there. Crap. He went there. No, like literally crap. He went there.
Yeah, I will admit the map in this game is not super great, but if you are paying attention around you, there are a lot of signs pointing like if you're looking for, I forget what some of the names for places are, like say a hazard containment area. You will notice signs on the wall that are pointing, hey, hazard containment this way. And it's like, oh, great. You don't necessarily need the map. It's great every once in a while if you get lost to pull it up and get a general direction of where you're going. But it relies upon a lot of like context clues like that.
Yeah. But I mean, the signs did not help me much at all. And I'm usually pretty good with directions. Not to toot my own horn or anything like that. I usually have a hard time getting lost, especially in video games, especially when the map's available. But like I said, I got tired of spending an hour to find where I needed to go just to get 15 minutes of gameplay in it. So I kind of stopped because it got boring.
See, I might have thought you might have enjoyed it more, Nathan, just because all these different powers you get and stuff. It's like, it's not quite a Jedi type game, but you're picking stuff up with your mind, you're tossing it out. Like when you get that thing upgraded all the way, that's pretty much how a lot of the fights will go. You'll open it up and like boom, throw, boom, throw, boom, throw. You can mind control your enemies eventually if you get I think it might be a side quest to get this power, but you can seize control of enemies, have them work for you. When you get a lot of the combos going, the combat really gels.
And I was looking forward to that because like even just the gunplay, it was a really solid gunplay aspect to it. And I enjoyed playing it. I just did not like having to figure out where to go.
So yeah, I did complete the story. I put in, I'm gonna say, I don't know, 8-ish hours or something, 6 to 8 hours. The game is,
I think Xbox seems to think about 10 and a half is what you do.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't feel like that, but that's good. So at the very beginning, I felt a lot like Nathan. Towards the end, there are things that Nathan said that towards the end, I still felt that way, but I do agree that at the beginning it did feel I did feel a little lost. Like it was very difficult. It was go here to do this thing, and but they didn't offer any sort of direction. And one of the neat things, but then also what makes this difficult is the building is constantly changing and morphing. It's one of the things in this game. Areas change after you complete certain objectives. More areas get unlocked. So when you go back, there are some places that don't even look like they were when you were there last. And so that at the very beginning, the first 2 to 3 hours really felt that way for me. I was just kind of lost, and I'm like, I don't know where I'm going. This is getting a little frustrating, but some of those positives, like the gunplay and stuff like that, really did kind of were attracted to me. One thing that made this really easy that I want to get out of the way, so I keep talking about some of this other stuff, is something that more games need, and that is what I like to call dad mode. And this is where you can turn on invincibility and turn on infinite ammo, and not necessary, but it was nice. Basically, one hit kills, and I can play the game to just enjoy the story and not get caught up in half an hour of trying to get past a boss or whatever, because I have kids and I don't have time to play games for 10 hours. I don't know how I played this thing for 10 hours. It's great that I did, but I would imagine had I have not had those three things, it would probably be more like 30 hours, and I would not be here sharing that I completed the game, at least the main story. So please, more of that in games. But anyway, what
now,
kept
now
me
fun fact
going
about that, they added that in an update, I think maybe about a month after I had finished the campaign. So all those options were not available when I did it. There was no difficulty options. There was no easy, hard, or anything like that. It was just play it through normal. So a lot of people had complained, and then that's why they put in the different options and stuff, because if you don't tweak any of those, it can get a little difficult in some of the combat encounters. So I know some gamer people, think that it might be babying people to add in those options, but it's like, don't rain on somebody's parade. Don't rain on their joy of like wanting to actually be able to finish a game that they bought, or in this case, getting through Game Pass. But it still counts. It still counts. So more games, yes, should have these type of options. Maybe not necessarily like, invincibility mode and stuff, but like just being able to tweak anything like that. And that's really great that the game has it.
Yeah. Or
like
turn
if I
it down.
decided
Like,
I wanted to open a new account, I don't remember if it gives you different save slots or not, but if I wanted to replay it again, I would probably also dumb it down too, because I've put in the work and I've already completed it once. And maybe whenever they're working on a sequel and that comes out, I'll want to replay this and just get the story again, like Robert did. And Nathan should maybe tweak some of these and go through just so at least he can get to the ashtray maze.
I was going to say earlier when James made that reference, yes. If anything, Nathan, I know that you can't stand it, but turn on invincibility, turn on infinite ammo, turn on the one hit kills, and at least play to the ashtray maze, because that moment is super freaking cool.
So I did use that mode. I didn't do
okay.
one hit kills, but I did do invincibility. I did damage reduction. I did like infinite ammo, because like you guys said, it's like, okay, I got to monitor how much time I spend on this. Hopefully I can get this done within a certain amount of time, but just my stumbling block, my roadblock was not being able to figure out where to go to complete the quest.
Yeah. So going back then, because that's kind of where I was before I jumped on the dad mode thing. So dad mode, great. More games, please. What helped me push through some of the difficulty that I also share with Nathan is, even though the story is ridiculously confusing, it was confusing enough to make me intrigued to continue to play, to learn exactly what was going on. It wasn't so confusing like, I don't know what's going on, this is weird, I'm out. No, this was more like, I don't know what's going on, this is weird, but like in a really interesting kind of way, and I really want to understand what's going on, so I'm going to keep pushing. And then I mean, I agree with James. I think that they did do a good job of throwing signs everywhere. And so that's basically all I did, is because since I'm playing on dad mode, I'm not really worried about enemies shooting me and whatever, or hitting me and stuff. So I basically just walk through the level, and just, if it said go to whatever, some archive. The Panopticon, that's one place you have to go. So on my way to the Panopticon, it says go to this, it says it's on this level. Go to that level in the elevator, and then just look around for signs that say Panopticon and keep going in that direction. And sometimes the signs can be a little difficult to find. I find what helps is the area you are supposed to go is highlighted in yellow on the map. And so I would just keep pushing in that direction until I saw a sign that came up for wherever it was. And eventually, as I went on, it got easier and easier and easier to find these places. And the sign, identifying where the signs were, got easier as it went along. I don't know if I just got used to it or something, but I did feel like navigating the map that was initially difficult, the longer I played, the easier it got. But I do agree that the game does not do a great explanation. Is not great at explaining exactly what you need to do, especially like when I got to my first experience with the Oceanside Hotel.
Yeah.
And I was super confused, and I was stuck inside that part of the game for like a good 30, 45 minutes. And I think the thing too is like, and this does, again, it doesn't help when you're a dad and there are kids screaming and you don't have a whole lot of, you're not able to pay close enough attention, was that what helped me figure it out was
Dad,
remembering.
Obviously you needed to do this. Why aren't you doing that?
What helped me get past that was remembering that the previous director, Trench, when he's kind of like saying you get to an area, he starts talking. I started paying attention whenever he spoke, because ultimately whatever he said, you needed to know to get past the next moment. And so then I remembered he was saying something about the rule of 3. And there was a sign next to the light switch that says, rule of 3 still applies. And basically, for the most part, all of the Oceanside puzzles is all 3 times. Pull the light switch 3 times, go to the bell, ring the bell 3 times, go to that room, grab the key, and then go walk to the door. Some of them were you had to ring the bell, go to one room, observe the room, go back, ring the bell, go to another room, rearrange the stuff to match the first room, go back, ring the bell a 3rd time, and then the key was in the last room after you had done that. So some of the puzzle gets a little bit better, but it was like, oh yeah, he mentioned rule of 3. And then it turns out every time that light switch comes up, just pay attention to 3s. It's all 3s. And so that was the deal that kind of helped me get through. Is like, whenever someone's speaking, not the dialogue scenes, but like whenever Trench pops up, start paying attention, because whatever he's telling you is going to help you solve the next puzzle. And so I am displeased to report that by the end of the game, I still had no freaking clue what was going on. It was still very interesting and a creepy story. I still don't get
part of that is that's just the Remedy style for a lot of their games. It's you get more answers by the end of it, but as you'll notice, there are hundreds of collectibles.
Correct.
Or maybe not quite hundreds, but there's about 100 or so, give or take. And there are these sometimes very long documents to read, and you can get a lot more information out of those.
Yes,
but it's a matter of having the time to look through them.
And so that's what I would say.
Ideally, if you want to know after you finish the game, get an idea of like actually what's going on, for better or for worse, go to YouTube. There are plenty of people that will lead you through it. Think of it, Nathan, kind of like a Destiny. What's going on in Destiny? I don't know. Let me listen to Blythe or whatever his name is, and he'll tell me. Okay, cool.
My name is Blythe.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what I ended up having to do. I had to go to YouTube, search for Control Explained, and I watched 2 or 3 videos. It kind of broke down all the different things that are going on in the game. And then I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it now. Now that makes sense. And I get that collecting, and this is the part of the game that I didn't like, is that I get that there are a ton of collectibles you have to collect, but I shouldn't have to spend 20 plus hours collecting a stupid bunch of long documents that I have to sit there and read and read and read just to get the main story on a basic level. There's tons of mystery surrounding this story outside of the main storyline. You still don't know what happens to, I don't remember his name, but there's a chief scientist. You still don't know what happens to him by the end. He kind of just is AWOL. You still don't really understand a couple of other characters and what's going on with them. So I could get, if I want to get into the weeds of the game, then yeah, I'll go and find all the collectibles and I'll read all of those things because I want to get into the weeds. But when I just want to play the
Insert some
campaign and
sort
learn
of
the story,
stereotypical drug paraphernalia into this to understand it joke.
so even if I want to if I just want to know the main story, I shouldn't have to go to YouTube or a bunch of collectibles to learn that. And that was the thing that just kind of bugged me a little bit. I enjoyed the gameplay. I'm super appreciative that there is a dad mode now. And it was interesting enough. And after learning it, yes, the story is very intriguing. I just wish they would have spent a little bit more time making some of the objectives a little bit more obvious, or at least easier to get to or understand, and not making the story make more sense and the main storyline without having to dig through all of these collectibles to really figure out what's going on. But otherwise, if I had to rate this game, I will give it a 7 out of 10. I was going to say 6 out of 10, but I really appreciate that dad mode. So I'm going to say 7 out of 10 for me.
But the long and the short of it is, Nathan, if you ever get the time, get the itch to do it, try to make your way back through it. If you need any help, Robert or I will probably be willing to help you. Otherwise, there's walkthroughs on YouTube, but you should at least make it through to, I think it's actually the second time you get to the Ashtray Motel. I don't remember if at this point you had already gotten to it the first time, but the first time you get to it, light spoilers, you cannot go through it. You try to go through this motel looking thing and it physically stops you from doing it until you acquire an item later in the game, like end game stuff, where it will let you go through it, and it is worth it. I don't look it up on YouTube. Just play it for yourself. It is that fun.
Okay. I forgot to mention when I was talking about it, you mentioned how it came in late for the Xbox One. So people who have the launch Xbox One like me, I didn't have problems with frame rates. I had problems with those control points that you would take over. Every other one or so, it would just crash the game. I would have to relaunch it and then work through wherever the last checkpoint was to get there. And then there was one point where there was a forge room or something where there's this huge boiler in it. I went to go in there and there was nothing there. And I fell through literally to the very bottom of the generated map for it. So it took me like 2 minutes to fall all the way down and then die and then have to reload the checkpoint. The room did eventually load, but there was definitely hardware limitations for me. And that was kind of a turnoff, but
yeah. I was playing it on Xbox One S. So not an original, not a X, not an overpowered one, but I too had tons of like loading glitches and stuff like that happen to me as well. The game crashed at least 3 or 4 times while I played and I had to relaunch it. So, oh well. All right. So we can wrap up Control and let's move on to my pick, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. So now this game is actually a sequel. The original Ori and the Blind Forest is the first one, and then Will of the Wisp is the sequel to that game. This game was developed by Moon Studios and actually published by Xbox Game Studios, so Microsoft's got a hand in this. And it's in the Metroidvania category type. So it plays a lot like the original Metroid games. You kind of start powerless, so to speak. And then as you move along, you unlock powers, and there are parts of the maps you can't get to, and you have to go and progress and get some powers before you can get back to those areas of the map. And so you basically play this small, I don't know how to describe it, and I didn't really look up what he's called, but small like bunny rabbit type character. A lot like he reminds me a lot of Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. Like a white long-eared Stitch.
I was going to say the lemur from Avatar: The Last Airbender. I forget his name. The flying lemur.
Yeah. Similar to that too.
Momo.
Yeah.
And so you play this character basically trying to heal the world that is being taken over by this kind of black mist that's kind of just destroying the world. And so you're trying to figure out what's causing that and how to heal the world around you. And then there's also another character involved that it's got this giant owl vulture-like creature. Anyway, I don't want to spoil too much of the story. It is a fantastic game, and the story is one of the most intriguing things about it. So I definitely recommend checking it out. This game was a lot of fun for me. I am definitely into the Metroidvania type games. I love being able to figure out some puzzles, learn that, oh, I can't reach this thing. And then as soon as I unlock another ability, then I'm like, oh, I can go do that thing now that I spent 30 minutes trying to do that I couldn't get to, and then easily get past that moment. And the game does a good job of like leading you back to those places. A lot of those places are progression in the game where they don't want you to go there yet because you'll die. You won't survive what's on the other end. But then there are other areas you can unlock. And the game does a very good job of leading you back into those areas so you can try out some of the more optional things as well. And I love all the different abilities, the skills that you can unlock. All of them have their purpose. I love that you can interchange them. This game does limit you to have, I think it's 3 at a time that you're able to use. If memory serves me correctly, it's been a while since I played it. I did not replay it for this review. So this is all coming from memory, but I believe you can have assigned 3 at a time, but you can change them up very easily. So if you're in the middle of a battle, you don't have to like finish that battle and die, for example, to try a different set. You can simply pause, rearrange your different abilities, and then try a different way. And so it's really cool that doesn't force you to stick to certain ones. You can change them on the fly, and I enjoy this game a whole lot. It's also incredibly beautiful. It's a very, very beautiful game. If you don't like games that are dark and hard to see, this is one of those where you'll definitely be cranking up the brightness, because there are a couple of scenes that can get pretty dark, but it is the kind of like white blue kind of light, that kind of aura that's around Ori, aura around Ori, is just, it's gorgeous. I love, like, blue's my favorite color, and there's a ton of blue in this game, and it's just a gorgeous title. And it's so much fun, and the map is massive, absolutely massive for such what could be perceived as a small game. It is very, very big. Like, I was amazed at how like just it kept growing and growing and growing and growing, and getting across, you have to like go back across certain places multiple times, and it was always fun to go back to those areas. It didn't feel like a slog, like, oh great, now I got to go back to this place and I got to go all the way across the map to get there. It's so cool because you unlock like 4 abilities before you have to go back through there, and now it takes you like half the time to get through there, and then you're learning new ways to get across things, and you get through it faster, and it's helping you fine tune your abilities. So I think like it forcing you to go back through the map gives you time to learn some of the new stuff, so when you get to the area that ability was intended for, you are prepared to use that skill because you have developed it on your walk there. So very well put together game. 10 out of 10 for me. So which one of you wants to go first? What'd you think?
I really loved it. I wasn't much into like Metroid and Legend of Zelda when I was younger, so this style of game is kind of new to me still, surprisingly. My first exposure to this type was actually Okami, which is weird because it's 3-dimensional and not 2-dimensional like this game runs. But I got the exact same feel. Beautiful world, beautiful story. The powers and abilities you collect along the way, like you mentioned, open up new roads and avenues to look for treasure and things like that. I was blown away by this game. I saw the first one. I forget what it was called again.
The Blind Forest, Ori and the Blind Forest.
I kept seeing trailers for that when it launched, and I just kept thinking, oh man, I got to play this game. It looks so good. It looks like I could enjoy it. So thank you for picking this game, because it forced me to make time to play it and actually go through it. I did not complete it. I have plans to actually complete this game, though. I got to the point where you rescue the owl near the beginning. So I got far enough, I felt, to at least be able to talk about it. But yeah, beautiful game.
Hey, the first one is also on Game Pass, so you can always go back to that.
Yep. But yeah, beautiful game.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Metroidvanias as well. I think first one I made a play to that, it's like Super Metroid way back when on the Super Nintendo. This I need to actually go back and probably give it another go. I was having issues at first of like, the game is beautiful and all, but like the first areas to me were a little samey, and I was getting lost a little more than I thought. I think I was maybe just not right in the proper mindset for it. I was also a little sleepy after work one night when I decided to try it, and I probably did not give it a fair shake. I should go back and like wipe that file, completely forget the hour and a half, 2 hours I put into it, and just start fresh and give it another go, because everything I've seen and heard about as the game goes on, it sounds really good. It's just, I didn't quite get that experience yet. So I don't want to knock it or anything for me personally, not having given it the proper shake, at least not yet. So it's going to stay on a list of I'm debating whether to go back to the first one or just do this one at first. I don't know. I'll figure it out when I get the time. Personally, I'm still also putting a lot of time into Hades, like I mentioned previously, because that's also been good. But Ori, both of the games, they are on my list of things to complete someday.
All right, so that'll wrap up Ori. And last but certainly not least, we have Nathan, who suggested Overcooked 2.
Yeah, Overcooked 2, it's a very simple game. Basically, all you have to do is make food to feed to some kind of evil to get him to save the world. I never finished the story on any of the games. It's not the point. The point of the game isn't the story. The point of the game is to get with some friends, do some simple cooking tasks, learn to work as a team, and learn to communicate, and just to feel good about being able to get that high score, the 3 stars you need to be able to finish the level completely. I wasn't introduced to Overcooked until I met Jessica, because that was one of her favorite games to play with her college roommates. And then, playing with her was just a blast. So when we decided to suggest these Game Pass games, I was like, maybe I can trick James and Robert into playing some games with me. So I'm going to select a game that's basically multiplayer only. And then we never played together, which is my fault because I didn't really push it as much as I should have. But yeah, this game, you can play single player. You can control both the characters, not at the same time, but individually you switch back and forth. But it's so much better with a friend. The first game is only couch co-op. The second one is online multiplayer, which helps a lot more. And again, it's not a huge game to get into, but it's a fun little. I got an hour to kill. Let me, pull my roommate over, and let's play this game and just kind of goof around and get mad at each other for throwing meat onto the floor, or not washing the dishes on time properly. And yeah, just quick little simple thing.
Yeah, I think much like Ori, this was probably not the proper mindset or way to be playing this, because playing it single player, hot swapping between your 2 chefs available, was not a super great feeling. It felt like a lot of extra undue stress. Mm-hmm. So again, I don't want to knock the game for it. It's, I guess, for anybody who doesn't have people to play with online or for couch co-op, it's nice for them to have the option, but it's definitely not, I feel, the way that they would have wanted it to be presented. Mm-hmm. So this would definitely be a game that would be shelved until I can have somebody else to play it with, either you guys or maybe getting my wife Stephanie to play it. I don't know. From what I've seen of videos of like later levels and later kitchens and stuff, it seems like a lot of wild and crazy things. So it looks interesting. I'm not sure that I'm going to try it again, and that's just because until I can find somebody else to play it with, it's maybe not the game for me. Mm-hmm. Which again, not necessarily a knock against it.
Yeah, I played the first 2 levels. So I played the first one that they kind of teach you how to play the game, and then I played the second one. And I, like James, I was in the right mindset for it, but I kept getting intensely frustrated with the controls. Yep. Swapping back and forth between the 2 was getting very annoying. I'd hit the wrong button, and instead of swapping characters, I was picking up the dish, or I would pick up the tomatoes. Like I had them next to each other, cutting vegetables. One's cutting tomatoes, one cutting lettuce. And I meant to grab the lettuce. I changed to the guy cutting the lettuce to grab the lettuce, but instead he grabs the tomatoes from the guy cutting the tomatoes, who's now no longer cutting the tomatoes. So in order to fix that, I have to put the tomatoes down and then switch to the guy cutting the tomatoes, and then tell him to continue to cut the tomatoes, switch back to the guy that's doing the lettuce, only to accidentally pick up the tomatoes again. And so
now just imagine you were doing that, but yelling at Nathan about it.
And so
and go.
And so it was intensely frustrating, but Nathan did mention that this game was better multiplayer, and I could totally see that because in my frustration where I'm yelling at myself, I could see myself yelling tons of obscenities at Nathan and Nathan yelling tons of obscenities back at me, and this just being a ton of hilarious fun, going through this. So will I play this game solo? No. It was after that second level, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to toss my controller through my 55-inch television, and that will not be good because I cannot afford another 55-inch television right now. And so I was like, I think I'll skip playing this single player, but I am interested in playing this multiplayer with one or both of you guys sometime in the future, because it does look like it would be a lot of hilarious fun. Maybe even one of these nights when Nathan and one of our mutual friends, Jacob, is up late playing games, we can give Overcooked 2 a try, and that might be a lot of fun as well. So I think in a group setting, this game is a ton of fun. Solo, maybe not so much. So, but yeah, it was good. So, that wraps up our grab bag of Game Pass games. We'd love to hear what your thoughts were on those games. Feel free to drop those in the comments. If you have suggestions of your own for games that we should try out that are on Games Pass, please drop those in the comments as well. And maybe we'll even feature those whenever we do one of these grab bag things again. But before we wrap up, let's go into our recommendations for the week. These are usually things that we've either been watching recently or watched sometime in the recent past, at least. And that kind of the same thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're just here to recommend some stuff that we found that was cool. And since I am talking, I will just go ahead and go first. I caught it released this week, and so I sat down and watched both episodes, just 2 of them, is the Disney Gallery Star Wars The Mandalorian. Bear with me, the title is almost over. The Making of Season 2. It's no secret. The 3 of us are Star Wars fans. We watched Mandalorian Season 2. Go back and see those reviews of My Mando and Me, our Terrible Times mini series on Mandalorian Season 2. I enjoyed the heck out of it. And so it was really neat to see how they did some of these things. They did this for Season 1, and it was really cool. They did it again for Season 2, only it's much shorter. Now it's just 2 episodes, basically the whole season as 1 episode, and then the finale, because of spoilers, Luke, they do a second episode all about how they did the finale. Both episodes were very neat to see kind of the thinking and stuff that went into creating this show. They do interview the cast a lot more than they did in the previous one for Season 1. So that was really nice. So if you're a fan of Star Wars, if you're a fan of the Star Wars, and if you're a fan of The Mandalorian, I would give that a watch. It was very neat. It's on Disney Plus. Disney Gallery, Star Wars, The Mandalorian, The Making of Season 2.
So now, while I have not watched the making of for the finale, I did see, obviously, the screen cap comes up for it on Disney Plus when you're scrolling through things. Did I see right? Did they have Hamill on set wearing the Luke stuff?
Yep. They did all the scenes. Watch it, because it is very neat how they break it all down, but they basically had Hamill do all of it in costume and everything, with R2 and everything, holding Grogu and everything. The entire thing filmed with Hamill in place, and then they did it all again with the actual guy that they chose to basically be the stand-in.
Body double. The body
double. They had the body double guy doing it, and so that they could they wanted the performance to be authentic Luke, and Mark Hamill is the authentic Luke. So they had him do the whole thing, and then the body double basically mimicking all of that. And then they go through how they do the deep fake of the face. It's weird. They make it sound like they didn't go the deep fake route and they did a de-aged route, or a combination of the two. Either way, they go extensively into how they did that. One interesting thing that I did learn from there, spoilers, is that the voice is not actually like Hamill or the body double. They essentially use this AI software. They pumped in all of this clean audio of Mark Hamill as Luke from movies and radio plays and interviews and whatever, and then use that to basically create the voice. So it's basically a computer AI reading out those lines. And so listening to it, I don't know if that was the route they should have gone, because it sounds like Luke, but doesn't sound like Luke. But it was interesting to hear them discuss that technology and break down how they made that work, because it's actually pretty intriguing. So give it a watch.
Sorry, could you say that again? I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay, I'll say it again, Siri. Watch Disney Gallery, Star Wars, The Mandalorian, the making of season 2, and leave me alone.
And folks at home, this is why you silence all of your recording and phone devices when you're in a podcasting session. Follow the proper etiquette, or you get whacked in the head. Since we are doing this remotely, Robert will just have to bang his head on the table.
Ow.
And now that we've waited for that to happen, everybody obviously heard the loud bang, which is also not proper etiquette. He should have muted himself before he did it, so he will have to do it a second time.
One moment, please.
And now he has done it, so we will move on to my recommendation. It's been a couple of weeks since I watched through my recommendation, but over a span of about, I think it was maybe a week or a week and a half, I made my way through the rebuild of Evangelion anime movies. There are 4 of them. They popped up on Amazon Prime, and I had always been meaning to watch. The first 3 have been out for not a couple years, about 14 years ago was when they started these movie series. I had always been meaning to watch them, but just never got around to it because they had not been streaming anywhere, and I did not feel like owning the Blu-rays on the off chance that I was not going to enjoy them. But the newest movie, the finale, finally popped up on Amazon, and I guess they bought up the rights to air all 4 of them, so I watched all 4 of them. I had watched the original Neon Genesis Evangelion series back in, it was either the late 90s or the early 2000s. I forget when it came over here from Japan, but I had watched the DVDs of it, and it's a weird series to get through, especially the later on as it gets, but it starts out as a giant mecha versus monster series, and it goes through a lot of just weird things from there, and if you stick with it, it's mostly enjoyable. There had been a couple of movies prior to this rebuild series that kind of capped off the animated series, but it never really ended in a way that the creator for it found fully satisfactory. So in 2007, he started releasing this rebuild series, which started off as just a retelling of it and eventually moved on to giving a brand new ending. And by the end of the 4th movie, the newest one, it actually gives like a solid like ending to where everybody assumes right now that the creator is done with this and Evangelion is over. And yeah, I enjoyed watching through this. If you've ever been curious about Neon Genesis Evangelion, a lot of people are suggesting the easiest way to do it right now is just watch the first rebuild movie, because it's just a retelling of the first, I think, 6 to 10 episodes of the anime. And if you like that movie, you can go to Netflix and stream the animated series if you're curious about it, or you can just watch the other 3 rebuild movies and take it from there. So yeah, if you've got the time and you'd ever been curious about it, go ahead. Just be prepared that the titles for these movies are weird. You've got the first one, You Are Not Alone. The second one, You Can Not Advance. Third one, You Can Not Redo. And the third one is, the fourth one, the fourth and final one is 3.1 plus 1.0 Thrice Upon a Time. So good luck trying to parse out what all those titles are supposed to mean.
And I thought
Enjoy.
Disney Gallery, Star Wars, The Mandalorian, the making of season 2 was bad.
I thought the Kingdom Hearts titles were bad.
Cool.
I don't have a really pertinent recommendation, but since I do now have Game Pass, I was kind of like finally looking through all these games that have been available and checking them out as I could. And so one that we didn't play all together, but I did play with Jacob, Golf with Your Friends. And it's just a golf simulator. There's nothing fancy about it, but it's also made by Team 17, who also made Overcooked 2, and who Team 17 is known for Worms Armageddon, a PC
I was going to
game.
say worms.
Right. So it's just goofy in its own right, and it's silly the way the levels are. They were such a joy to play through, with just a tiny bit of challenge. Like I remember one point, one of the courses we were playing, I was like 3 strokes away from getting par for the entire course, which is an achievement for every course that they have. And so like those last few holes, I'm like, I just gotta get 1 under par. I gotta get 1 under par. So it's like par, and it's like, so I'm just getting so mad at myself for not being able to get that achievement. But yeah, they have different modes too. Like they have a basketball version where you take your golf ball and have to like get it into a basketball hoop at the end. I can't recommend that one. It was not fun. But yeah, the courses themselves, they actually have a worms course too, where you're like going through a trenches battlefield with all the worms shooting at each other, and the holy hand grenade rolling down, and these sheeps flying through the air, and it was just such a fun thing to do. And you're having a good time because you would get like triple digits on your strokes at the end when the par for the course was only like 80 or so. You're just messing up every hole.
Sounds like a ton of fun. I have seen this title scroll across when I'm looking for games on Game Pass to play, and had not given it a shot. I may do that now.
4.
Score
Yes.
in 7 years ago.
Well, that wraps up our episode. Thank you for joining us to talk about some of these interesting topics and our Game Pass grab bag. We hope that you check out those games. Like we said earlier, go ahead and give them a shot and let us know what you thought of in the comments. And as a matter of fact, on any of the things we discussed today, we'd like to know your thoughts on those things. And so you can leave them on the comments below. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcasting app, you can find us on Facebook by going to Facebook and searching This Is Going to Be Terrible Podcast, or by going to facebook.com/This Is Going to Be Terrible, and leave us some feedback there. No matter what, feel free to like and subscribe, hit that bell, leave a review, shout out our names from the rooftops, whatever you'd like. We appreciate the feedback from your audience. And who knows, maybe one day we can give you a shout out in one of our episodes. Till
The
next
long and the
time.
short of it is, we want you to let us know and make comments and stuff. And we are not above bribery. I think I have a nickel here somewhere. It's yours for the taking.
Just know that only James will be offering monetary bribes for comments.
And it will only be a nickel.
And only a nickel. Till next time, bye.
The nickel is yours. Come and take it. Goodbye.
Be good to each other out there.